Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video, and this is the last movie review for Test 69 Spartan. I do have two more 1 hour Let's Tries I need to do for him. If you're watching, that will be done after the Resident Evil Village playthrough, because that request I got before any of yours came in. It's just that when okay, long story short, he requested a game called Crash to Insanity for PlayStation. I wanted to try out. I needed to get to Resident Evil Village first, but I wanted to try out just to make sure I had it, and then I did jump to it, realized it didn't work, and then told him, and he gave me some replacements, including this. So, but those will be coming after Resident Evil Village when that playthrough's up, because I have to switch the systems, and now it's on the PS4. But anyway, thank you though. I appreciate your patience. Thank you so much. And he wanted me to review Street Fighter II, the animated movie. Now, the other animated film he had me review was Tekken, the motion picture, which I was not a fan of. I thought that the 2010 live-action film of Tekken, I liked that film. I thought it was better than the Tekken animated, because even though it was 57 minutes, so a short film, it was still boring. There was barely any fights, which you think you would want with a Tekken movie's fights. And it was just a lot of boring drama, and when the fights do happen, they're like 10 seconds long. And it left a lot to be desired. I thought it was really lame. This one is pretty good. Street Fighter II, the animated movie. Came out in 1994, give or take. And this one, I did watch the uncut version, so I got to see the titties and the ass. And funny enough, it's on YouTube. Like, you type this in YouTube land, and it's up there. So, already it's a winner. Because you get to see Chun-Li's titties, you get to see Chun-Li's ass, and a Chun-Li shower scene. So, just, hey, the movie has passed its test. Collect $200. Right by the, keep going over the boardwalk. Chun-Li's tits, Chun-Li's ass. A+. Game over. There you go. End of review. But while I do have flaws with the film, I have issues with the film, overall this was fun. It gives the audience what it wants in terms of there are a decent amount of fight scenes. Some of them do last longer than 15 seconds. Unlike that Tekken animated film. And while I don't understand why we can't have a martial arts tournament, how many Street Fighter things have we had and not a tournament? We had the Van Damme movie. You had the Street Fighter Legend of Chun-Li. I don't think that fan thing, Assassin's Fist, I can't remember. I reviewed that, but I can't remember much about it. I think it was just about Ryu and Ken. I don't think about a tournament. I don't think. Like, what is the deal? Like, why can't you just have a Street Fighter movie about a goddamn tournament? Can someone answer that question? Not like it didn't work in Enter the Dragon or Bloodsport or the 95 Mortal Kombat. Oh, it did work in all three. Does it always work? No. The Quest with Van Damme, I love Van Damme, but that's a lame-ass movie. The Quest is like a shitty version of Bloodsport. In my eyes. And Van Damme could not direct shit. But hey, I did a novel idea. Hollywood, since you're out of ideas, make a Street Fighter movie and have fighting on the streets and a tournament. Let's see how it goes. But I will say, number one, the animation, I didn't compare it like that Tekken movie. The animation is pretty good. I thought it was fairly good. The opening alone, where it's a stormy night, and you don't see anything, then you see the lightning flash, and you see Ryu and Sagat and the fighting, and you see different poses, and the whirling of the wind, and the lightning's getting more and more angry, and it's really building up the tension, and then you see like the certain moves, and each one getting their specific moves in, and Ryu He's able to get his whirlwind kick, his Shoryuken uppercut, and his of course Hadouken. You get the mainstays. You get the bit where he scars up Sagat's chest, which I believe is lore of the game. So it's cool that you get to see that. And the music's very a nice rocking beat to it. It's a good way to open up your film. Now the plot of the film is Bison is part of this. He's the leader of this crime syndicate. That's a Shadow Law, and he's hired Veda, the pretty boy with the mask and the long Wolverine claws, Balrog, who was a boxer, and Sagat, who we saw earlier in the film. I find it funny that Balrog wants to hurt people, but he uses boxing gloves. Now you say it's so that he, protects his knuckles, but it's going to protect people's faces too. It's going to be hard to beat the shit out of people with boxing gloves on, but that's just one of those things you think of. I don't think he wears boxing gloves the whole time. I don't think he does. I'm trying to remember now. I should look that up. I watched it the other day, but anyway. Just one of those funny things you think of. I'm just talking about, because I played Street Fighter 2, the video game. That was the only fighting game I played when I was a kid. Even on I get it'll protect your knuckles, but it's going to hurt them less than if you hit them with bare knuckles. But anyway. So they're hired. Meanwhile, Chun-Li is an agent with Interpol, and they're going to work with the American military, and that's where you get Guile. And they both want revenge on Bison. Chun-Li for the death of her father, Guile for the death of his friend. The main character is Ryu, and he just kind of wanders to Earth like he's Kane from Kung Fu, while his best friend Ken is off doing, doing stuff. I wouldn't say doing his girlfriend, but there's no sex scenes. Maybe if they made a sequel, they would. But he's with his girlfriend. Sometimes you get flashbacks of Ken and Ryu when they're training and they're in the woods, and you hear their sensei, and there's times like Ken accidentally hurts Ryu, but then gives him a piece of his red clothes, and that's how Ryu gets his red bandana, is because of Ken. So I thought that was a nice little thing they put in there. Wow, okay, that's why Ryu wears the red bandana, because it's what Ken had. And yeah, I thought that was a nice bit. Again, there's a decent amount of fights. Not wall-to-wall fights, but a decent amount. Ryu is forced into this fighting pit, and there's a guy going at him, and he headbutts the guy, so the guy's nose caves in. I thought that was really cool. That was fun. And then he has to fight Lee Fawn, who obviously is a take on Bruce Lee, and he was in some of the other Street Fighter games. And I know I've seen this film before, but at this point I didn't know who this actor was. So when I'm watching it now, I went, is that who the hell I think it is? And it is. Lee Fawn, he hasn't taught like Bruce Lee, but the character fights like Bruce Lee. And that just makes noises like Bruce Lee. Wah! That stuff. It's Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad. And he was in the Godzilla 2014 film, the Total Recall remake, but mostly Walter White in Breaking Bad. Walter White, he voiced other animes too. It's not the only one. You can find stuff on YouTube. Like, Bryan Cranston was an anime voice actor. I tried to find an interview. I couldn't find it. Someone had to have asked him about this. That's what I would ask. How did that come about? And do you have any memories of doing that? How many people know that Bryan Cranston was a Street Fighter, technically? So I thought that was cool. Sadly, the character's not in it that long, but it's a nice fight where they go back and forth, and Ryu is able to do the hurricane kick, which I always thought was funny when I played the game. And he would go like, rat-da-da-da-da-da. I love the sound effect. Sally's not that sound effect, but that always made me laugh anytime. Because I never knew what the fuck he said. But he does do that move and beats Fei Long. But I thought that was a good fight. They kind of walk together. Ryu walks one way. Fei Long says goodbye to him. And Sally, you never see Fei Long again. Ken is off doing his own thing. This guy, T-Hawk, who's in, again, some of the later games, he has a fight with Ken, but it's very, very brief. That one's a bit brief. I don't know, it's like 30 seconds long. T-Hawk punches and does some stuff to Ken. Ken blocks. They pretty much, he does a kick off the wall and a show you Ken, and that's pretty much it. Does like one move on the guy. I'm like, really? Why is this fight so short? Bison has these androids, these sentry robots that go across the globe to find people who are good fighters, because that way he knows who to catch and to hypnotize, brainwash. Because Cammy makes an appearance, and she murdered someone, but she was under the influence, brainwashed. So once Bison wants Ryu but can't find him, but when Bison sees Ken is doing the same moves as Ryu, now he's curious about Ken. Meanwhile, Ryu is walking around. He watches Dalsum and E Honda have a bit of a fight. But again, it's not a long fight. It's kind of like they get started, and by the time they get started, they don't really get to do much. Now, it's longer than the stuff in Tekken, and there's more of them. But it's like... Instead, Dalsum's like, I sense a disturbance in the Force, or whatever. He knows there's someone with power, and it's Ryu. And then E Honda grabs him because he's not paying attention, and then Dalsum gives up. E Honda's like, what? You throwing the fight? But like, okay, if you like Dalsum, you want to see him... Okay, he does a couple punch, but you don't get to see him do most of the stuff. He levitates, floats, but you don't really get to see like how long he can do his legs and arms. Yoga flame, yoga flame. You don't really get to see much of that. E Honda, you don't really get to see a whole lot. Like, I don't think you get to see his tornado bit. At least I don't remember it. But you don't get to see a lot of it. And that's a shame. And that's the thing, while I do like the film, I like some of the music. I mean, they got Alice in Chains. They got, some other songs and music in there. They have a good assortment of the characters. DJ makes an appearance. Blanca and Zangief make an appearance because they're doing some show, and these two are like the fighters. And Zangief does his big tombstone driver. Pile driver, pile driver. But then Blanca does his like roll that hit Zangief in the face, and it bites his shoulder and then electrocutes him. But you never see who wins the fight. That annoyed me. You don't see who wins the fucking fight. DJ is kind of funny, him saying, wait, people looking for me? Oh, Bison and them? Those are badass motherfuckers. Thought that was funny to hear that. The best scene in the movie, honestly, belonged... I mean, Ryu was really cool in his scenes. But, I mean, Chun-Li, I would say, has the best fight. Well, number one, she has the best assets. She got the ballistics in the shower, tits and ass, so that was nice to see. And on top of that, Vader comes in and slashes her up, but then she's able to get some good moves in, some good hits in, and really beats the shot with her the super duper fast legs, kicking him, beats his ass, throws his ass out the fucking window, which seems like to his death. Good. Because he was this close to being a fucking rapist. I think some got offended by the whole scene, but yes, guys like tits and ass, and I like seeing Chun-Li's tits and ass. Sorry, but I'm not going to apologize for being a guy that likes that shit. It's number one. Number two, Vader is a bad guy, so he's going to do bad things. And to be honest, most of it was just him kind of punching her, slashing, not like pinning her down and fondling her and stuff. So it wasn't like that. So that's number two. And number three, she beats his ass, kicks his ass, and wins. So it's like Chun-Li's going to get one fight, but it will be, I always say, the best fight and the longest fight in the movie. Well, the Ryu and Ken versus Bison is a long fight as well. So I would say those are the two longer fights. She wins, but she goes to a coma. Guile is pissed about that, so he goes to find Ryu. Ryu is visiting E Honda. Ken, by this point, has been taken by Bison and brainwashed. You get some flashbacks of Ken and Ryu. And then Bison, Balrog, and Ken arrive. And there's Guile, Ryu, and Honda. Now, Honda and Balrog fight, but it's more like Balrog gives Honda a headbutt, but then he gives Balrog a headbutt. And that's it. Then they go off the cliff, and you don't see the fight. You just know that Honda wins. And this ending, like, I remember when I first saw this, I soured on the movie, because I thought, I didn't really like the way this ending played out, and some of this stuff. Like I said, I liked the film. I would say I liked it a bit more than I did the first time I saw it. Because I think the animation is very good. I thought the characters, the designs, they put a good amount of characters in there, so it didn't feel like too many were left out. Ryu definitely has some good, strong, badass moments. Ken has a few. Chun-Li. The music is good. I said there's a decent amount of fights. I would say my favorite fights is the Ryu versus Fei Long and Chun-Li versus Vega. But the annoying stuff is like the stuff I was saying. You get Zangief versus Blanca, but you don't even get to see who wins the fight. You have Honda versus Dawson, but it ends almost as soon as it begins. You get E Honda versus Balrog, but they do like one or two things, then they disappear for the rest of the fight. You don't get to see the rest of the fight, which I don't understand that. Guile, I remember being pissed because when I played the game, Street Fighter 2 and Super Nintendo, Guile was my favorite. Guile's the one I used the most. Him and Ryu are the ones I use the most. I love playing as Guile. I like his moveset. He doesn't get to do most of his moveset except his Sonic Boom. He doesn't get to fight anybody else except Bison, and then he gets his ass kicked very easily by Bison. So he doesn't do anything. Like, Guile, they made so fucking useless. Maybe because, hey, Van Damme's going to be Guile in the movie, so if you want Guile, you go see that film. Here's going to be Ryu, or Ryu and Ken. I can understand that, but can at least have Guile, like, have some other bad guys for Guile to fight? Like, fine, Guile is defeated by Bison, but have someone else that Guile can fight. Whether you find out Vader's alive and then Guile beats his ass for what he did to Chun-Li, or maybe Guile versus Sagat, because Sagat kind of disappears, which I thought was weird. Like, Sagat's with Bison as if, you know, we don't see more Sagat, then he just disappears. So have Guile versus Sagat, or something like that. So I hated how useless Guile was. He has no fights but with Bison, and in that he gets his ass kicked like that. Then the other stuff I mentioned, like the Zangief and Blanca. Zangief and Blanca, you don't see the end of the fight. Honda and Balrog, they headbutt each other and they disappear. So I didn't like that. Tien and Ryu fight, but not really, because Ryu doesn't want to fight. Instead, he tells Tien like who you really are. Tien snaps out of it. Kind of like Tekken, how the guy snaps out of it because someone else tells him this is who you truly are. But at least, unlike Tekken, you did an actual fight where Tien and Ryu team up to fight Bison. Ryu did some good moves on Bison, which is nice. Some good punches and kicks. And when they do the impact, the animation is very good. And the dubbing, compared to other things, I think the dubbing in this was fair. As in, the dubbing, I thought was better than some English dubs I've seen. I don't think it was as egregious. Maybe not for every character. Like the guy playing DJ was overdoing it a little bit. But I think, it was overall fair. I do think that. It was overall fair. And yeah, it's just one of those things where as it went about, they defeat Bison. Chun-Li steps out of her coma. Guile didn't really do anything. He was completely fucking useless, but okay. Ryo says bye to Tien. Ryo's walking. And then Bison... I thought this was weird. Like, Bison arrives in a semi-truck. So Ryo's ready to fight Bison, and it's a cliffhanger ending where there's no... I don't think there's a next movie to show what that led to. But okay. So I don't like that there's a cliffhanger ending because you don't know what happened next. So there's a lot of issues I have with it for those aspects. But at the end of the day, I do like it. Like I said, I think the animation is fairly good. The fight scenes, nice choreography. They share a good amount of the moves of the characters from the game. They share a good amount of the characters in the game. I thought Ryu and even Chun-Li I thought were done fairly well, at least to me. When the fight scenes were there, and they had time, like Ryu versus Fei Long, or even Tien and Ryu versus Bison, Chun-Li versus Vega, they were satisfying. The soundtrack was nice to listen to. Good choices in there. Again, can't go wrong with Alice in Chains. Nice to hear them in it. I can't remember the names of the other bands because I'm bad with names. Overall, I did like it. It was fun. So, take that for you will. Is it my favorite anime? No, I would go Akira for that. But is it one of the better ones? Yeah, I think so. And again, still a lot better than Tekken. Tekken don't have Chun-Li's tits and ass, so it loses. There's other reasons too, but anyway. Thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.